Let us look into logging into EC2 instance. Is but basically nothing but a server for us. We can do so using Putty if you are using Windows operating system. We can use SSH in case we want to use terminals to connect. But how to perform these activities? Let us look into that. So we'll be doing this Putty now. So when we get into a different type of activity, so at the time I'll show you how to connect using SSH, even with SSH. Now when it comes to working with an account, we got different interfaces. So if your account is having resources like EC2, we need to work with EC2 for our purpose. For that, okay, we can go for a GUI facility. So using a browser console, even we can also use AWSCLI, which we're going to discuss in detail later part. Or okay, so in case if required, so application wise, they can use APIs, which I'll brief about those. Now, when we want to work with our instance for a purpose, we're going to use Putty. See, whenever we create an EC2 instance, so we have generated a key pair file with extension .pem. So this file we are going to use as a key to log into the EC2 instance. Now, whenever you want to use this file, so you can't use it directly, you have to convert it into a private key file. So using PuttyGen. So means we want to use PuttyGen to convert into a PPK file. So this file we want to use it to log into the server. So this is your key pair file which we're going to use it to log into the EC2 instance. And whenever we log in, we will log in as default user EC2-user. So from there, that user, okay, so you can also switch to super user. So whenever we create an instance, we'll have an EC2 user by default. The key pair is generated. We need to download this. You can use one single file for multiple EC2 instance login also. But whenever you want to use this PEM file, you have to convert to a PPK file. For that, we're going to use PuttyGen. Later, using Putty, we're going to connect. For Putty, we need two things. One is the IP address. It can be the entire string of DNS. Then we need key pair. So two information is required, which you can get it from the instance details using key pair and using the IP address available. So the key pair is converted private file we have to use, and you have to connect. So let us see how to connect as EC2 user to EC2 instance. But before that, okay, how to convert a key pair file which is generated or downloaded from the account when we create an EC2 instance, convert that to a PPK file using PuttyGen. Then we'll use Putty to connect to our server. Okay, let us log into our account. We'll use aws.amazon.com. Sign into the console. It will take you to the login screen. So in case if you want to connect to an account which you want to use, okay, so you can connect. If it is the account which you want to connect, you have to feed the password. So as we configured a MFA, so it is prompting us to specify the MFA. So we need to feed the MFA ID generated, which is there in your device. So for example, it can be your mobile. So now it got changed. Okay, I'll update it. So it should match. Then it will take us to the account where we can go through the recently visited services, maybe of this account or maybe all other accounts which I'm using. So click on the recently used, or you can go for services also. From even from services, you can come to Ec2 Dashboard. So presently, we don't have any running instances. We got one volume, probably we got only one server, one key pair, So now let us click on the instances. We got an instance which we created. So using IAM user we created, we can rename it. So I'll just rename it as our server. So the instance ID is mapped to the name that we are given now, and these are the resources. Presently it is stopped, so which we have discussed about how to manage it. So instance state, okay, we'll start it now. So we'll just say yes, start. So when it is stopped, the public IP address is not available, public DNS complete string is not available, which will be populated now once the instance starts. Okay, it is in pending state, so it will go to different states while starting and while stopping. So let us refresh the screen. So now it is running. So we are able to see the IP address or the entire DNS, which is having the entire string, which is required for our purpose. Okay, we'll copy this, we'll keep it ready, and at the same time, okay, we can also check the key pair name. So probably we'll retain our server as server by IAM user itself, because of the key pair name is mapped to that, and it doesn't is not mandatory. So if you don't need to get confused, okay, so probably you can maintain the same name. Just not to get confused, okay, so you can retain the same name. So in our example, so the name of server and key pair name, so they are not related actually. So only thing is the server and the key pair is related, not the name actually. So in this case, as the name is server by IAM user, so to make our understanding simple, so the server name and this ID of the instance is mapped to a key pair. So we have to use this key pair, which is in PEM format. Okay, we have to convert it into the private key file. So for that we are going to use Putty now. So we have our PEM file, which we have downloaded when we created the EC2 instance, server by IAM user.pem. Okay, so file name can be any name. This is our key pair, which we checked in EC2 details. Now use Putty, initialize it. So there, okay, so file, you load private key. Even you can load it from load also. Okay, so it is pointing. Okay, so go to the location in which the file is present. So it is not displaying because it is checking only for PPK files. So we will give all files. It's showing the PEM file now. Choose that and open it. So it is importing the file means keys. We say OK. So now those keys are loaded. So in Putty key generator, Putty gen. Now you save it as a private key. Save private key. So now it is prompting, okay, because as we didn't specify the password here, is prompting. Okay, in our case, I'm not specifying the password. It is always good to go for a password to connect. Okay, as we are using it only for the testing and learning purpose, I'm not giving any password. Okay, so without password, I will be able to connect. You give a password in case required. Okay, as we are not giving password, we are not giving password. It's prompting us whether you want to continue without password. Okay, so we'll just say yes, we want to continue. Save that file. So as a ppk file. So here we'll choose all the files. What I'll do is, okay, I'll use the PEM file and I'll give extension as .ppk so that it will be clear for us to be converted into ppk. So you can give any name for your key pair file, but only thing is, okay, it should be a private key file. So save it now. So now then quit Putty. So here we got two files. Earlier we had only one file, the PEM file. Now we got ppk file, which we can use it to connect to our EC2 instance. We are using Putty. So we have generated a Putty private key file. Now we will be using the address public DNS. So then the key pair file, PPK file to connect. Here we have to give the host name. The host name is nothing but your public IP or public DNS. Copy it. So use it host name. Port is 22. Then under connection. So choose SSH. Under SSH, you choose authent. So now for authentication, you need to browse and go for using PPK file. So say open. Now if you say open, so you should get a login prompt. Now it's taking time. So why it is not able to connect? If everything is fine, you should connect. But if it is not connecting, then we need to take care of few things. Check what is that? Why it is not allowing us to connect? So as we were discussing, the first level of security is done. So it's saying that network connection error. So it's not able to connect. Not a problem. We need to troubleshoot now. So how to connect? So means whenever we discuss the first level of security is done in the form of security group. So security group will act as firewall. So we need to check whether it is allowing us to connect. So because when we use Putty, so we were using, suppose if you use Putty, we would use IP address and port number 22. So means we are using connecting to the server. So and we have to use SSH to connect. So further we'll do that again. I'll close this. So you look into the security group. Part of your instance details. You can see security group. So we are using default security group. Click on that default security group. It takes you to the security group. And here it should allow inbound is what is that allowed, which service can be used, which port number can be used. So go through that. So here if you see, is saying that all traffic, but we need to allow for the connection. So specify edit add rule. So you need to allow SSH TCP port 22. Who should be allowed? Whom should be allowed? So here anywhere means any, or we can give specific IP. So in our case we'll give anywhere because we are using internet to connect to case of facility, broadband to connect facility, anywhere. So means any network will be able to connect, which is not good actually. We should give the specific IP address, a range of IP addresses from which so users will be able to connect. But in our case I'll give anywhere and we need to save it. So now you can see SSH is allowed. So now we'll use Putty again this time. We'll use the address, IP address, DNS address, complete address available under connection, under SSH, authent. Click on authent, browse for the PPK file. In our case, server by IAM user means .ppk file. Open, and if you just say open, now we have fed the information about both. So IP address to connect to the server EC2 instance and the key, private key. Open. So this time you can see, so server host keys is not cached in the registry. It is going to cache it now. You just say yes, we get the prompt to connect. Login as, so by default we'll have an user by name EC2 user. So it allowed us. So means your server is secured from the first point itself. So in the form of security group, which acts as a firewall, it is secured. If only firewall is allowing, security group is allowing a specific service to be used in a specific port, it is available, and from a specific IP address, so it is allowed. Only those are allowed, otherwise they are not allowed. So if you give ID, it shows you are connected as EC2 user belonging to the same group. So who am I? You can check echo dollar user. You can check. So based on what are the resources you are given, okay, so for that, okay, it is going to allocate. So now if you want to connect as super user, sudo su minus pq, you'll be able to connect as super user. So means you can work as root user now. You'll be able to work as root user. So EC2 user is the official user which we have used to connect to the EC2 instance which we created earlier. Now let us look into creating additional operating system user with whatever the name you want. If you give cat etc password, you can see already users available. You got EC2 user available in this. So is the default user for EC2 instance. Okay, similar to this, if you go for group, you got various groups. EC2 if an user is also one of the group, default group for user. Now we'll create our own group. Group add -g with specific ID. So probably I'll call it as o install example. Group add -g. Okay, specific ID, group ID DBA. Now we'll add an user. Just for example, user add. So username should be the last actually. In between you have to give. If you want a unique ID for user, you can specify that. So you can give a specific ID for your user. -g to which group that user should belong to as a primary group. Capital G as a secondary group. -md. So which is that home directory for the user. So I'll give user image data sphere. Okay, so username itself is used as home directory of the user, not mandatory, but okay, generally that is how we go for data. So we give username. User add first, username in the end. In between you can use the options like user ID, primary group, name of the group, secondary group, name of the group. -md is make directory, user home directory. Usually this path means okay, mount point should exist, and home directory of the user is usually same as username. So now okay, even I'll set the password for this user. So we'll get as DS, which is a short password. Okay, so now let us try to connect as data sphere user. So what will happen? We'll check that. So I'll use Putty. Okay, we introduce the IP address DNS. Okay, let us get it from our login. So from instances, so the instance which you are using, so you got public DNS, copy it, then go for connection SSH, authent, browse the file, PPK file, open it, then you say open. So earlier as the keys are cached, it is not prompting us again. Let us try to log in as data sphere user. So it is not allowing us, is refusing connection. It can't be used, the key cannot be used because whatever the key that is used by user is not mapping. So then what is that we have to do now? What is that we have to do now? Now we are in this login. So if you look into the details, okay, we created user EC2 default user. So in this location, if you give LA, it will also show the hidden files and directories. One such hidden directory is .ssh. So if you see the same thing with the data sphere user, so you don't have .ssh directory. So you need to create this SSH directory of EC2 user SSH directory, which has got the authorized key file. So this file should exist in the user also and should be owned by the user himself. Okay, so whoever the user is using, so that user should be the owner, no other users should have access. For this, okay, what you can do, you can so you can switch as user here, su minus data sphere. So within this, okay, you can log in, but from if you want to log in from external, it is not possible. Okay, so because of this, we are in the home directory of the user, echo $home. You are connected as user. Actually, we have switched as user, but we don't have that SSH directory. Let us create that directory. User need a directory. Then we have to copy the file. So that we have to do it as the privileged user. So this file we have to copy, which is belonging to EC2 user. So I'll use CP generally, and I'll copy to data sphere user .ssh. But okay, so this file now is owned by root itself because root user has copied it. We need to change ownership of this user. So I'm changing it for data sphere user belonging to install group. For the file, so earlier it was owned by root user, so now we are able to see that it is owned by data sphere. It means same keys we have put into this user to get authorized. So again, okay, so we'll use this file. Okay, so means the DNS IP address. We'll use Putty. Then connection SSH authent open. Sorry. Close. Connection SSH authent. Browse the PPK file. Open. If say open now, it is prompting us to log in. So I'll give now this time data sphere. Okay, so it is taking us. So it's using same key which we are using it for EC2 user. So now if you try to log in as, okay, so this is normal user now. Echo $user. Who am I? Okay, so is a data sphere user, is not EC2 user, is not default user. So if this user tries to log in as super user, will not allow. Okay, will not allow to log in as super user. So because we depending on the provisions we are given for users, they will be able to perform. So this user can log into the server but not as root user. Okay, so as user doesn't belong to a specific group, okay, is not allowed to log in as super user, but can work as normal user. You can perform any kind of activities. So in the home directory, you can create further directory, my dir, can log into my dir, can perform activities, touch file 1, file 2. So you can perform any type of activities depending on requirement. Can create files and directories. And what are the content that is stored is persistent. So as user, okay, we have got user, so even this user can be used for your purpose. So instead of connecting as EC2 user, we are connecting as user which we want to use for our applications purpose. So this is how we're going to connect and work with EC2 user.